Could have been me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up, take command. I, of course, am your commander in chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So, number of topics that I want to get to today. Let's start first with training camp. Training camp has been announced, the dates for Washington. We always know it's late July. We don't actually know when in July. Is it going to be the 21st? Is it going to be the 23rd, 25th? We never know when it's actually going to start, what the calendar actually looks like until they tell us. Well, they've told us now. So let's take a look at the training camp schedule for Washington. The dates are July 27th is when camp gets started and is open to the public until August 19th. So in between that time, Washington will be playing preseason games. Washington will have a couple of joint practices with the Ravens. They've got some events here, as you can see. We'll go through those real quick. But July 27th, basically the end of the month, is when camp gets started for Washington. And with only 3 preseason games, it makes them starting a little bit earlier not really necessary. So as you can see, every single practice that's open to the media will start at 9 o'clock. They're doing something a little different this year. They're going to have little benches out there for people to sit. First come, first serve. The first 2,000 people that want to be seated will be seated. So they're going to have the little bleachers out there, and it will sit roughly 2,000 people. For these various days, they'll have like DJs and things out there. So on the 29th, that's their first specialty day. And this is one that's going to be happening around the league. This will be league-wide. All 32 teams will be participating in this. NFL back together Saturday. Every team will be doing this with their respective fans. And so there'll be a DJ there. Some, alumni will probably be there that you can meet, things of that nature. It's like a little party or whatever out at practice. You'll probably have a little autograph session with some of the players coming off of the practice field, so forth and so forth, which usually the guys are pretty good about signing autographs almost every day after training camp anyway. But as you can see, you get through July into the dog days of August. You get to the 8th of August, and they've got Washington Salute Military Appreciation Day. So every year they do Appreciation Day, and that's usually, a practice. Like I said, it's at 9, but a lot of times the appreciation practice is usually in the stadium at night, and they have you come out. Some years it's during the day, and it's usually at FedEx Field. We'll see if that's what this ultimately turns into. Right now, it just looks like a regular practice day. Obviously, they're going to honor the military. Ron is big on that, being that his background is in the military. So, we'll see what happens. There's probably going to be some kind of fan appreciation day because this is more suited and geared towards the military. I'm assuming in there somewhere, it's not listed, there's going to be like a fan appreciation night where they have practice under the lights at FedEx Field. They do it every year. We'll see if they do it again this year. And then there's a kids' day, which is pretty cool. Take your kids out there. They'll probably have a lot of different things set up for them. Again, a DJ will be out there playing some music. They'll probably have like a couple of things set up for kids to play with, sort of like they do, at these big events like the Combine and things of that nature. They have all these little apparatuses your kids can play on, put your face inside of a thing that, it's cut out, throw the football, try to throw it through this hole, that kind of stuff, maybe cornhole, all that good stuff out there. So that sounds like it'll be a little bit of fun for the kids. And then if you look at the calendar, you see that you get to August 14th, and then there's a bit of a gap. There's 3 days, right? Because that's in the middle of the week. Usually when you get a gap, it's either a weekend or there's a preseason game. Well, there isn't actually a game there. What happens is the Ravens joint practices are the 15th and the 16th. So they'll be heading to Owens Mills to take on the Ravens for practice for 2 days. Then they'll have a day off, and then they'll hit the practice field again on August 18th, 19th. Then the game is, I believe, that Monday. And then that'll be Washington's, final preseason game. I believe the Ravens are the final preseason game for Washington. don't get me the lion. Anyway, I digress. So training camp schedule is released. If you want to go, they have the signups on the website. You go in there, you click on it, you sign up, you register. They'll send you an email letting you know that you can come out to practice, where you can park, yada, yada, yada. So if you're really interested, I would encourage you to do that as soon as possible. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement and anticipation for this year's camp, this year's season, with everything transpiring with the ownership and that changing hands. Eric Bieniemy, obviously, Sam Howell. I think there's real excitement, real buzz for this team this year amongst the fan base. So again, not like past years where it may be easier for you to get out there. I think it's going to be lit this summer. So I advise you, if you're interested in going to some of these practices, or you want to pick out a specific group of practices or a weekend that you want to head out there, do it early. Okay, that's what I suggest. But anyway, while we're here, I want to talk about something else that is funny to me, because apparently the 33rd team, and I sent you guys their way. I think it was last week when I was talking, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago when I was talking about the trios of receivers. They had posted a list of trios of receivers in the league, and they asked who had the best. And I made it a point of emphasis, not necessarily to debate with you guys who was the best, because I didn't think we were the best. But it was still a fun exercise. A lot of you thought we were second on that list. I still don't know how you managed to put our team at second on that list, but that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is, I told you that I like the 33rd team. I think they do some good work over there. And they had another post here that I won't say drew the ire of Washington fans. I think a lot of them were amazed at this, and I don't know why. Not if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, because I talk about this all the time. Every single year, we talk about this at least 5 to 7 times, because it annoys me to no end, and I want it to stop. So when people started sending this to me, most of you got it, and one person was like, our secret's out of the bag. Like, it's not a secret. I've been trying to tell you guys about this filthy, dirty statistic here that I've been trying to bury, but I really just want it to be over, because this isn't what you want to be, the worst at right here. But of course we are. So this statistic shows every team in the league's last 11-plus win season. And the tweet that this graphic was attached to was asking which team will be the next to win 11-plus games. And obviously you could have multiple teams do it. You usually do have 3 or 4 teams that exceed 11 wins every year. And so they're showing the last time that each franchise has done it. And I don't think most of you who watch my channel were amazed at the fact that the last time we did it was 1991. I've told you this 18 million times. So I don't think that caught you off guard. I think what ultimately caught you off guard was the fact that nobody else is in the 90s except us. All right. And you barely have anybody in the 2000s, the early 2000s. It's not to the 20 teens that you have teams that haven't had, 11-plus win season, or the last one that they've had. So I think this one is especially jarring for a lot of you when you see the gap between us and the rest of the league. I mean, it's pretty significant. You got to go 27 years. Okay, I just want you to think about it this way. It's not just the 90s. We're 1991. We're almost in the 80s. Okay, we're closer to the 80s than we are 2000. Okay, just understand that. But I just do it by tens. You go from 10 years, from 91 to 2001. Still haven't met anybody, right? Then you go from 2001 to 2011, and that's where we get to the Dolphins and the Jets. Okay, Those are the two teams closest to us. So not 20, I think I said 27. It's been 17 years. The next closest team. So we're 91, and the Dolphins haven't won 11 or more games since 2008. They're the closest team to us. 17 years away. 17. Okay? So just let your brain wrap itself around that concept that we haven't won 11 or more games. And, my line to you guys is always, every franchise has that year where they catch lightning in a bottle. Every single one except us. And I the only way I can rationalize this, because I don't want to hear about quarterback play, because every team on this list hasn't had pristine quarterback play. Every team hasn't had Peyton Manning or Eli Manning or, Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or Ben Roethlisberger. Every franchise hasn't had this prolific quarterback for the past decade and a half leading their franchise so that they wouldn't be on this list. There are teams with dysfunctional quarterback situations that have been on this, that are on this list, that haven't had the destructive, dysfunctional type of situation that we have. That's what it boils down to. This is all ownership. This is all in the lap of Daniel Snyder. You can't win big with an owner like Snyder meddling and all of the shit that he's done. That comes back to haunt you. Like, there's karma. I believe in karma. And the football gods would not allow it. So hence, we find ourselves staring at a list that is as embarrassing as it gets. Okay? But you shouldn't be taken aback by this. I've been telling you, I don't know what you guys were expecting. And what's funny is this is a reaction that you get from people very often, is they hear something and they don't react to it the same way as when they see it. Okay? That's the same concept when you're in the retail business. They call it sticker shock. They don't want to scare the consumer away by showing them a price that seems outrageously huge. So they don't show you the price, or they don't put it next to an item that's extremely cheap for comparison reasons, so that you get sticker shock. I think a lot of you got sticker shock here. You saw it. You've been hearing it. I can tell you something is $11.99, and your brain doesn't really process that. Damn, $11.99, that's pretty expensive. Unless it's a product you buy all the time, but you see $11.99 and then you see that same product in a different brand and it's $6.99, and you're like, I've used both of them. There's not that much of a difference. It's very negligible, the difference is. Wow, that's really expensive. I'll just go with the one that's $6.99, right? I've been telling you that we haven't had a 10-plus win. I put it at 10. This is 11. We haven't had a 10-plus win season, right? Anything over 10. So 11 or more, which is what they're saying. But we haven't had 10 is the limit. That's as far as we've gone is 10. And we've only done that twice. 05 and 2012. We're a joke. Okay? And I've been telling you guys this every offseason. When we go down memory lane, when we talk about the prospects of the upcoming season and what we may be potentially able to do, I always go back to, we haven't done XYZ since 1991. I always talk about not having back-to-back playoff seasons since 91-92. I always tell you about not having back-to-back winning seasons until Jay Gruden did it in 15 and 16. And that was as trash of a back-to-back winning seasons record-wise as you can get. That was as trash as you can get. Went 9-7, and then you went 8-7-1. You barely cleared the bar twice. Okay? Legitimately, we haven't had two winning seasons, like real winning seasons, since 91-92. Everything goes back to 91-92 when we were under the old regime, old ownership. When Gibbs 1.0 was here, everything traces back to that. We haven't been a real outfit really since then. Now we have a chance to hit the reset button. Get rid of Snyder, and whether getting rid of Ron and company is next up in line or they remain here, because I already told you, I gave you my piping hot take already on Ron and company. They're not going anywhere, at least for the next 3 to 4 years. That's what I see. But that starts with them saving their jobs this year, which I think they're going to do. If they don't, they'll be gone, and then there'll be a new GM in here. And he's going to have to win big. Again, I don't even know if just making the playoffs is good enough. I think it would be because of what this franchise has been. But I'm not even sure that just making the playoffs is good enough. They may have to win a game as well for Ron to save his job. But we'll see. Making the playoffs is the first goal they should have. Is like, hey, let's make the playoffs. That'll make it tough on them to get rid of us. You make the playoffs, that's going to give you a fighting chance. If Sam Howell is good, you make the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of momentum that you're riding into the 2024 season, which is what you want. So you got to start there if you're Ron and company. But this should not have surprised any of you. I think the thing that surprised you is that everybody else's number starts with a 2 and ours starts with a 1. I think just being in a whole nother century is what got a lot of you. Everyone else is in the 21st century and we're in the 20th century. And I think that's what just kind of was like, whoa, wait a minute. Is it that bad? I've been telling you it's that bad. I didn't know that there wasn't another team but I told you this. I told you, everyone catches lightning in a bottle. Doesn't matter what your quarterback situation is. Doesn't matter what your roster. Everyone catches lightning in a bottle sometimes. We haven't. So, anyway, I digress. New order. Really like taken aback by that graphic, and I don't know why. I don't really know why. I know why. I just told you why. I mean, but I don't know why. Like I see it and I'm like, oh, okay, it makes sense. You know how long ago 1991 is? What did you think? Every other team was having struggles, winning 11, 12, 13, 14 games. If you want a silver lining, let me go back to the graphic. If you want a silver lining, it's not much of a silver lining, but we have the highest win percentage the last time that we did it. And there you go, right? No one else has 14 wins and just 2 losses. There's 14 wins and 3 losses, but no one has 14 wins and 2 losses. So there you go. If you want a silver lining, there it is. We have the highest win percentage of anybody on the graphic for the last time that we did it. But no, we would trade that in a heartbeat to just not be 1991. So I'm trying to be positive here. I'm trying to make it glass half full for some of you out there. Glass is half empty. We need to change it around. But last thing I wanted to talk to you about is Khaleke Hudson. He's giving me Defoe vibes. I think I might have said this to you already. I think I mentioned this more so with Percy Butler, but because I think Percy Butler's being slept on. But Khaleke Hudson is a name that is really starting to resonate. And Ron has talked about him twice now, unsolicited by the media. And he's giving me Defoe vibes from last year because it's the same thing that Ron did with Derek Forrest last year. And Jack Del Rio did with Derek Forrest last year. Talking up a guy that we really didn't ask you about, telling us how great of a off-season program he had, with the OTAs and the minis, and he looks great, and he seems to be moving around a lot faster. And I'm telling you right now that Week 18 game against Dallas, it did wonders for not only Khaleke Hudson's confidence in himself, but I think it did a lot for the coaching staff's confidence in Khaleke Hudson. It's almost like they just had this awakening, like, oh my God, if we actually give Khaleke a chance, he can play. But look, I'm not there at practice every day. We can sit here and talk about how athletic a guy is and, this, that, and the third, but how good he looked in the preseason. But that's not what's happening at practice. That's not telling the full story. They said Khaleke had a great week of practice and it spilled over into the game, and they were really proud of him. Remember, he got a game ball. If you recall, that's the same victory speech that included Sam Howell's, Let's roll these boys. Khaleke Hudson talking about hard work. And he was going through something. I don't know if you guys realize he was going through a little something in his personal life at that time. And he was able to push through. Remember, he got cut last year. So it was a different year for Khaleke Hudson. And he persevered. And those are the kind of guys you want on your team, those mentally tough dudes that persevere, that have been told no multiple times and keep fighting for that yes, like Jeremy Reeves. Those are the kind of guys that they become, serious glue guys on rosters. And I think Hudson is in a prime position to take advantage of a position that is not deep nor great on this roster at linebacker. And I've been hearing nothing but good things. And John Keim just said this on his podcast, that, we all can feel it. We all heard Ron talking about him. I've heard Jack, talk about Khaleke Hudson and the job he's doing. But he's like, Khaleke's running with the ones right now. And again, don't put too much stock into that because Jamin Davis isn't out there. Now, what is, a bit alarming, and it shouldn't be, because I was never a fan of them bringing Cody Barton here anyway. Okay? You guys know that. But he's here. I'm going to support him. I wish him nothing but the best. But I would have preferred Cole Holcomb. And we've done this exercise. We don't need to go down that road again. I don't want to, a lot of you miss the point when we have a Cole Holcomb discussion. Because you start, well, Cole Holcomb wasn't all. I'm not telling you that Cole Holcomb was an all-pro or a Pro Bowl linebacker even. I'm just telling you he was ours. He was homegrown product. We knew what we could expect, and I still thought that there was more we could tap into. And now you're bringing in an outsider that at a bare minimum is going to give you probably the same thing you got out of Cole, maybe a little less. So whatever on that. I'm not, again, we don't need to go down that road again. But Barton being, on the second string right now in camp is a little bit off-putting, especially with injuries to the linebacker position. That's not something that we really truly want to hear. But again, I don't get caught up in the linebacker position with this particular franchise because we don't really care about the linebacker position enough. We've shown that with our actions the last 2 years in the draft, not, going out and adding to that position, in meaningful ways. So, with the Buffalo nickel that they use, a lot of times, and somebody else brought this up on another video that I did, we play a lot of 5-man defensive front, which a lot of time takes one of the linebackers off the field anyway. When we give that pseudo bear look, we take, one of the linebackers off the field, bring an extra defensive lineman onto the field, and you put in, and you have your, so in essence, we're playing a lot of 5-1-4, right? Or 5-1-5. So, when you're doing that, you're not really putting a lot of emphasis on the linebacker position. You're minimizing it. Our base defense is a 4-2-5. Like, the linebacker position isn't as important here in Washington. They've minimized it to the point where don't get bent out of shape about the linebacker position. Clearly, they don't give a damn. Neither should you. But in saying that, I'm not surprised that Barton's running with the twos. I told you Seahawks fans were like, yeah, go ahead. You can have him. He sucks. Now, you look at his numbers. It was his first year being a full starter. Those numbers are impressive. But fans will tell you, they don't, if there's no real animosity, fans will tell you the truth about a player, And I've talked to Chiefs fans. They're like, yo, Andrew Wiley's going to be fine for you guys. He's not great, but he's not terrible. You'll survive. You'll get through the season and you'll be fine with Andrew Wiley. I believe him. I talked to Giants fans about Nick Gates. They love him. They wish he was still in New York. Fans will tell you. And Seattle Seahawks fans told me, Cody Barton is a jag. You can have him. And actions speak louder than words. Just like with the Minnesota Vikings, they had no corners in Minnesota. None. They drafted 2 or 3 this year in the draft alone because they had nothing in the cupboard. It was bare. And they cut a guy that still had a year left on his rookie deal in Cameron Dantzler. What does that tell you about him? Again, different regime. Didn't draft him. Same thing with Nick Gates. A lot of people say, well, if Gates was so good, why did the Giants let him walk on a bad offensive line? Because they didn't bring Nick Gates to New York. That's why. It's a new GM. It's a new coach. They have no ties to Nick Gates. They're going to turn that roster over slowly but surely in New York. They're going to keep the guys that they believe in from the last regime. But most of the guys that are going to be there moving forward are going to be guys they brought there. So, Khaleke Hudson, that's a name that I think a lot of us should be looking out for. I got 3 guys that I'm going to be watching like hawks, during training camp into the preseason to see, what it is exactly they're getting accomplished and what people are saying about them. Percy Butler, the tight end that we took last year. Why is his name escaping me? I can see his face and everything. Oh, crap. I can't think of his name. It'll come to me as I can keep talking. But the tight end we drafted last year out of Nevada, Cole Turner. Okay. And last but not least, Khaleke Hudson. Those will be 3 guys that are, who have been here. The aforementioned 2 are going into their second years. They were rookies last year. And, the latter, Khaleke Hudson, I'm thinking this is the breakout year for him. The year that he solidifies himself as a guy that they want around. And, he's on a 1-year deal. So they'll have to do something if they want him back next year. But I think he's starting to blossom. And I told you, everyone matures at a different rate of speed. And he's starting to mature. So we'll see if it bleeds over into camp like it did for Defoe and into the season, or if this is just an offseason thing. We get to the regular season, Jamin Davis is healthy, and we don't really hear from Khaleke Hudson. We'll see. But anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. I got another video for you guys tomorrow. That'll be a big one, the video tomorrow, because there's a few things that I want to talk about. One in particular, it's really that I want to really dive into because it's getting out of control. So I want to reel it in a bit. But anyway, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. We will come back tomorrow. I've got another video for you, and then we'll be live on Thursday night as we always are. Until then, you guys take care. Post up. Take command. You guys have a good one. See you next time.
LouieTeeNetwork.